Hey guys, good morning. It's your boy Brainsy. Welcome to day 99 of Workout Grind. It's actually 99, right? It's not 97. I'm not sure. But yeah, anyways. I'll check. Yeah. Um, so yeah, it's currently 6:06 a.m. indicated with my title, which is a very early run. I usually run very late, like 6:14 or whatever. Maybe that's also because I also talk while doing things. But yeah. Um I've been slipping lately. Like I gamed at one point, which is not good. And I sort of slipped back into like this thinking that I had to play games, which is not good, really not good. I'm currently in detox. I cannot afford to like play again. But anyways, yeah. Today is Arms Day. I'ma be ballin', bro. I'ma be ballin'. I haven't worked out in like a week almost because I was really sore at last time. I did 3 full reps for everything. So yeah. Yes, sir. Now I'm just gonna go now. Something to share. I don't really want to share. I'm gonna do that in my vlog anyways. So let's go. All right.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus. And this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in the zone and staying there, that feels more like luck than something you can control. So that's why we made Brain FM.
So now there's mounting evidence for a strong link between hearing loss and dementia. It's not them billion will be affected by 2050.
Welcome to the Huberman Lab podcast, where we discuss science and science. Dr. Konstantina Stankovic, welcome.
Thank you.
Most of us don't think about our hearing often.
Why?
Enough. Except now everyone is using headphones or listening to things very loud, or most people are living in quite loud environments. I was in New York last week. I've been in Chicago, San Francisco. These are really loud cities. And even if one goes out into the countryside, if you're listening to music loudly, which can be fun, feels good if you like loud music, classical or rock and roll or otherwise, I have a feeling you're going to tell us that it's not good for our hearing and that losing our hearing is not good for a bunch of other things. Tell us about hearing loss. How do we avoid it?
Absolutely. So hearing loss is a huge problem. It currently affects 1.5 billion people and disables 500 million of them. And the World Health Organization.
I guess I'm gonna do that since trying to commit to an actual routine.
Organization estimates that another billion will be affected by 2050. So this is an enormous issue, and it's really underappreciated and stigmatized, and lots of people live in silence. For example, for those who have problems with their vision, they wear glasses, and glasses can restore their vision back to normal, to the point that people now wear glasses even if they don't need them. It's a fashion statement. However, that's not the case for hearing loss. And it's because hearing aids are aids, like the name says. They don't restore hearing back to normal. So to answer your question, I think we really should review how hearing works. So the way we hear is when sound comes and travels down the ear canal, it vibrates the eardrum. The fancy term for it is the tympanic membrane. That sets in motion the smallest bones in the body. They are called the malleus, incus, and stapes, which is Latin for the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup bone. As they vibrate, they set in motion fluids in the inner ear. And this is where these incredibly delicate sensory cells reside. They are called hair cells, but that has nothing to do with this hair. And as they deflect their sensors on top of their surface, which are called stereocilia, that leads to flow of ionic current and release of neurotransmitter and excitation of the auditory nerve, which then sends signals all the way to the brain. So in the inner ear occurs this, it's called mechanoelectrical transduction, because we are converting a mechanical stimulus into an electrical one. And there are two broad categories of hearing loss. One is the so-called conductive hearing loss, and the other is sensorineural hearing loss. The conductive hearing loss affects the ability of sounds to be conducted to the inner ear. That can be if there is a hole in the eardrum, or there is fluid behind the eardrum, or these hearing bones don't vibrate, they are frozen because of a disease process. There are surgical treatment options for that type of hearing loss, and non-surgicals, which include amplification with hearing aids. So that's an easier type of hearing loss to have. But the more common type of hearing loss is the sensorineural hearing loss. It's the one that originates from the inner ear. And why it's been so challenging to study and to crack that nut is because it's tiny. It's a tiny organ. It's encased in the densest bone in the body, and it's located deep in the base of the skull. You may even ask, how tiny? If you take a penny, then you'll notice that Lincoln is on a penny. So the human organ of hearing, which is called the cochlea, in cross-section is the size of Lincoln's upper face on a penny.
Wow, that's small.
Super small. And that organ is filled with fluid. How much fluid? What's your guess? What's the volume of this inner ear fluid? It even has a fancy term. It's called paralymph and endolymph. There are two types of fluid, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the scale. So how much fluid do you think there is?
I'm guessing the equivalent of less than one drop out of an eyedropper.
That's pretty close. It's actually the equivalent of 3 raindrops, so about 140 microliters. So this is an organ that's amazing. It is the most sensitive sensory organ. It can detect displacements that are on the order of the diameter of a hydrogen atom. That's astounding. If you just think in terms of electronic chips, the traces are now on the order of 1 nanometer, which is the size of 5 silicon atoms. But the ear can detect displacements that are 1/10 of that.
So at the angstrom level.
Sub-angstrom level.
Sub-angstrom.
Sub-angstrom level. It's really phenomenal. And another example to really highlight the sensitivity of this organ, if you have a trained violinist, if they move their finger by only a micron, so that's a millionth of a meter, the ear can perceive that as a change in pitch.
Amazing.
You can't see that with your naked eye, but the ear can perceive it. So these examples really highlight how delicate this organ is. And another absolutely stunning thing about the ear is that there are these cells, there are sensory cells that we talked about, but they're called inner and outer hair cells. And what's special about these outer hair cells, they actually move, but they move at audio frequencies. So what does that mean? To put it in perspective, let's say that the heart beats at 60 beats per minute, which is 1 hertz. If the heart starts beating at 2 hertz, 120 beats per minute, that's arrhythmia. That could be life-threatening. Well, these cells in the inner ear move in humans up to 20,000 hertz, and in bats up to 100,000 hertz. So this is to tell you how incredible this system is, and it's designed to let us detect sounds. And it's evolved so that we can detect sounds at any point in a day or night. Sound travels through any media. Sound travels around obstacles. It's really essential for survival. There are species that don't even have vision, they are blind, and they are surviving superbly well because of their incredibly astute sense of hearing, like bats or moles.
May I just ask a question about sound waves themselves? Could you differentiate for us how high versus low frequency sounds travel further or have a greater propensity to impact the movement of the eardrum, which you beautifully explained is the consequence of a bunch of mechanical features and the endolymph, and you said the other lymph?
Perilymph.
So I want people to get this image in their mind that sound waves, not voices, not music, but sound waves are traveling through space, arrive to the ear, and then there are converted into a mechanical pressure that changes over time, like the beating of a drum, eardrum, that then is converted into pressure within this lymph fluid, which then moves these little hair, quote unquote, hair cells, which then activates neuronal signals that go up to the brain. And it, remarkably, I mean, to this day, I'm a neuroscientist, and it still blows my mind that then we perceive language, we perceive music, we recognize a cry versus laughter, and it all happens very, very fast. I think most people don't think about hearing that way. And so could you explain for us the elements within sound waves that sort of create this incredible architecture that we call the perception of hearing?
Sounds, as they set in motion the tympanic membrane, the eardrum, and then lead to motion of hearing bones. There are different modes of vibration depending on both sound intensity and frequency. Once they get transmitted to vibration within the inner ear, everything is tuned in the inner ear. So the cochlea is a coiled organ. Cochlea even means snail in Greek. So now if you uncoil it, then it's a tube. And high frequencies are encoded at the base, close to the middle ear, and low frequencies far away at the apex. And so when sound waves come in, if they're of high frequency, they will cause primarily vibration at the base of the cochlea. If they're of low frequency, they have to travel all the way up, and this is where speech resides, at higher frequencies. It's interesting that the high frequency end of the cochlea tends to be more vulnerable to various insults, like noise levels that you pointed out, certain drugs, and aging. Now, in terms of music being so essential for being human and our ability to communicate, this is a podcast, so it highlights how important our ability to communicate and hear that communication is essential. It can create vivid experiences. It can be very engaging, even without seeing people. And looking at that throughout history, for example, Socrates in ancient Greece said, "Speak so that I can see you." And then in the medieval years, it was a French writer and physician, François Rabelais, who said, of all the senses, hearing is the fittest for the reception of the arts, sciences and disciplines. And then 500 years later, Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf and is one of the most celebrated people of the 20th century, said, deafness is a worse misfortune because it separates you from people as opposed to things. So that gets at your question of why is hearing important for us? It's important not only to communicate, that's direct relevance, but there are indirect major effects on how we feel, on our emotional, relational, and cognitive well-being.
In today's financial landscape of constant market shifts and chaotic news, it's easy to feel uncertain about where to keep your money. However, saving and investing does not have to be complicated. There's a solution that can help you take control of your finances while still managing risk, and that's Wealthfront. I've trusted Wealthfront with my finances for nearly a decade. With the Wealthfront cash account, I can earn 3.75% APY, annual percentage yield, on my cash from program banks. I know my money is growing until I'm ready to spend it or invest it. With my Wealthfront cash account, my money is eligible for up to $8 million in FDIC insurance through program banks, which adds an extra layer of security. One of the features I love about Wealthfront is that I have access to instant, no-fee withdrawals to eligible accounts 24/7. That means I can move my money where I need it without waiting, even in volatile conditions. And when I'm ready to transition from saving to investing, Wealthfront lets me seamlessly transfer my funds into one of their expert-built portfolios. Right now, Wealthfront is offering Huberman Lab podcast listeners an additional 0.5% boost over the base rate for 3 months, meaning you can get 4.25% APY on up to $250,000 in deposits. More than 1 million people already trust Wealthfront to save more, earn more, and build long-term wealth with confidence. If you'd like to try Wealthfront, go to wealthfront.com/Huberman to receive the boosted APY offer and start earning 4.25% APY today. That's wealthfront.com/Huberman to get started. This is a paid testimonial of Wealthfront. Client experiences will vary. Wealthfront Brokerage isn't a bank. The APY is subject to change. For more information, see the episode description. Today's episode is also brought to us by Our Place. Our Place makes my favorite pots, pans, and other cookware. Surprisingly, toxic compounds such as PFASs or forever chemicals are still found in 80% of nonstick pans, as well as utensils, appliances, and countless other kitchen products. As I've discussed before in this podcast, these PFASs or forever chemicals like Teflon have been linked to major health issues such as hormone disruption, gut microbiome disruption, fertility issues, and many other health problems. So it's really important to try and avoid them. This is why I'm a huge fan of Our Place. Our Place products are made with the highest quality materials and are all completely PFAS and toxin-free. I especially love their Titanium Always Pan Pro. It's the first nonstick pan made with zero chemicals and zero coating. Instead, it uses pure titanium. This means it has no harmful forever chemicals and does not degrade or lose its nonstick effect over time. It's also beautiful to look at. I cook eggs in my Titanium Always Pan Pro almost every morning. The design allows for the eggs to cook perfectly without sticking to the pan. I also cook burgers and steaks in it, and it puts a really nice sear on the meat. But again, nothing sticks to it, so it's really easy to clean, and it's even dishwasher safe. I love it, and I basically use it constantly. Our Place now has a full line of Titanium Pro cookware that uses its first-of-its-kind titanium nonstick technology. So if you're looking for non-toxic, long-lasting pots and pans, go to FromOurPlace.com/Huberman and use the code Huberman at checkout. With a 100-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free returns, you can experience this terrific cookware with zero risk. I'd like to return to this close relationship between what we hear and how we feel. But before we do that, let's say I were in the wilderness and I was lost and I was trying to find my way back and I was out of water and I spot somebody on the horizon and I wanted to call out to them with the greatest probability that they could hear me. Would I call out in a higher pitched, lower pitched, or whatever my typical voice happened to be, assuming that I'm going to call out at the greatest intensity in either case? Which sound frequency is going to travel furthest and or have the greatest likelihood of reaching somebody's ears and having them perceive it?
You partly answered your question because sound intensity is the key. And as humans, we can produce only sounds of certain frequencies. And throughout history, people have used horns. Horns really work. And so that would be the first thing that you do. And you can even create it like this yourself.
Okay, put your hands on either
project-
side of your mouth.
Exactly, to project. But if you have a longer horn, use that. That really works. In terms of our human ability to detect tones, in every species, it's a sensitivity curve. So when we test hearing in clinic, we test it only up to 8 kilohertz. But we can hear up to 20,000 hertz. And it's because most of speech really lives below that frequency. Lots of speech lives between 250 hertz and 4,000 hertz. And if you speak at those levels, which we do because that's what we do as humans, women can have more high-pitched voices, or children can have more high-pitched voices, but it's still in the range of optimal human hearing. That's what you would need to do. So then all you have to do when you're in a situation like that is speak as loudly as you can, and if you can, find a horn so that it amplifies.
And if you don't have a horn, put your hand on either side of your mouth,
Yes.
which we do intuitively.
Intuitively, exactly.
And if we need to hear something at a distance, we put our hand to our ear in order to
Exactly.
create a temporarily larger ear.
And that works too. It absolutely works. Our patients tell us it works. Sometimes in the clinic, if people don't have a hearing aid and they're really hard of hearing and they don't
Shit, what am I doing? Twisted fly, right.
know how to lip read and they don't want to be reading what's being written,
You know what? Topic is mid. Topic is mid. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe I don't have an attention span. I just need to watch something else.
Hell is different than you think.
It's the grabber.
What do you think happens
Oh my
when
god.
you
15
die?
seconds.
Black Phone 2 in cinemas October
Shut the
16.
fuck up, bro.
Another Saturday,
Oh
another
my
Hydrolite
God.
delivery.
Hello everyone, my name is Loco and welcome to the grand finals of the Maestros of the Game, a $20,000 StarCraft 2 tournament that was recently held in Paris. Now it's time for a best of 7 series. We're in the top left hand corner in game number 1, playing with the Red Zerg drones. We have the world champion of StarCraft 2, the #1 Zerg on the planet, and he goes by the name of Serral. His opponent, last year's world champion of StarCraft. He's of course the hometown hero because he is from France. Playing for Team Liquid, we're looking inside of the main base of Clem. The very best Terran on the planet. These two are absolute titans of the game. Now, I haven't seen this series yet, but I've heard that it is absolutely incredible and that it is some of the very best StarCraft 2 that we have ever seen. Now, these two, of course, have a very long history. They've played against each other many times. So, like I mentioned, Clem won the EWC, the Esports World Cup, last year. He played against Serral in the finals and ended up winning 5-0. Serral seemed to have some sort of, I don't know, I guess a mental block or something along those lines. He did not have a good day, and he ended up losing in the grand finals. Obviously, still doing quite well for himself, but 5-0 is unheard of. Now, since then, they did not play in the EWC 2025. I mean, both of them participated, but they did not play against each other. Serral, though, ended up winning the EWC this time around, and he, of course, stole the title of a world champion here from Clem. Now, since then, they've played against each other as well in 2 other grand finals. They play against each other all the time. Once they played in an online tournament, the Pigsty 5.0, I think that was back in March. Serral ended up winning that one 5-4. And more recently, they faced off against each other in Bulgaria for the BGE. And in that particular best of 7 grand finals, it was Clem who came out ahead 4-3. Now, there's one thing that we've noticed, at the very least if we don't consider last year's EWC grand finals, and that is that every single time that these two have played against each other since, the matches are absurdly close. So I am super excited for this one. It's a best of 7 series to start. Now, because Serral in this particular tournament comes from the lower bracket, it's a double elimination tournament. The French tournament organizers really enjoy this type of format, but it's a double elimination tournament. Because of that, since Serral has already used up his first quote-unquote life in the event, if Serral wins this best of 7, they play 1 additional best of 3 to decide the victor. If Clem ends up winning this first best of 7, he is the winner of the tournament. And that is again because Clem has been undefeated so far in this particular event. Now, so far, Command Center right over here on the low ground, no surprise. Triple Command Center opener. I'm assuming a starport will be coming up here in just a moment. There it is. Factory is going to start pumping out Hellions 2 at a time. And we have, of course, that Command Center added on into the mix. Overlord wants to have a look around, but it can't really find too much. Nice catch right over here on the Reaper. But of course, these two have played in these type of early games so many times that it's pretty much second nature. And if we look at the units lost, I mean, getting 1 drone is pretty much the best case scenario right here for Clem. Now, it is important to note that this particular series is played in the, I guess we can now call it the old StarCraft 2 balance patch. In case you missed the news, Blizzard has already published the brand new patch. I made a video when the PTR first went live. And since then, they've added a whole lot of changes to the PTR. And then a few days ago, they just simply pushed it live to the current version of the game. So that means that all future tournaments, all current tournaments, are going to be played on a brand new patch. This one is the one without all of the Microbial Shroud changes, for example. I really think Microbial Shroud, which is crazy because I think up until this point, it's been the worst ability in all of StarCraft 2 ever. I think Microbial Shroud is seriously going to impact Zerg versus Terran, especially at this level, because Marine Marauder really just doesn't deal any damage when Microbial Shroud is down. It is pretty crazy. So if you are interested, I will, of course, be casting games from the brand new patch very soon as well, so make sure you subscribe so you get notified as soon as those videos go live as well. But this one is still played on the old balance patch, the one that we have been seeing for all of 2025 so far, and the one that, well, is very well explored at this point. And I think, all things considered, Zerg versus Terran is very balanced. So even though the new patch is going to introduce a lot of changes, and it will certainly make the balance a little bit messy for some time, I think across the board, it has been extremely close. And when you see these two play against each other, it really it shows how tight the games tend to be. Now, we have a little Zergling that did run in, and Serral will just now have scouted, that there is indeed a bio transition. Liberator, in the meantime, in the main base, is going to get shut down. Hellions get pushed back as well at the front. Clem trying to use some of that multitasking, some of that speed to his advantage. But so far, he is not really getting a whole lot of value there. Getting 2 drones for a Liberator. Also losing a Hellion there is certainly not worth his time. Especially when you can, well, send that Liberator back home, maybe repair it back up and get a bit more value. Clem usually very well known for that sort of thing, but he is mixing it up a little bit already, right? Not opting to go for that Banshee shenanigans, which we see most of the time. Not opting to go for any of that Cyclone shenanigans either, which, by the way, they have now fixed with the new patch. So maybe in this series, we're still going to be seeing some of that battle mech, some of that cyclone mech. But in this particular, game, it's going to be bio for now. But with the New Balance patch, it's no longer going to be as powerful as it has been for some time. But Clem, not really a mech player anyways. But let's see, maybe the Hellions right now around the site can achieve something. The problem here is if you end up losing those Hellions, there is going to be a counterattack imminent immediately. And if there's a counterattack immediately imminent, then you can't really send out these medevac drops. So Clem needs to be cautious with the way that he maneuvers around his army. He needs to keep these Hellions alive if he wants to go for pressure. Look at this. There's nothing to defend. You run into some risks here as a Terran player, especially if you end up losing some of those early game troops for free. Marines going in around the site. Serral, though, already positioning his queens perfectly. Gets a transfusion down on one of them. 2 of them. 3 of them. Yeah. And with this many queens, life is going to be a-okay. He actually starts up a hive right now together with 3 infestors. So these infestors are relatively early. It's something that Serral has been experimenting with quite a bit as of late. Normally, though, he makes 2. So I'm curious to see if this is just a misplay. I mean, is that possible? Probably not. Maybe he's seen something where he believes he needs an additional fungal, but either way, he is going to be able to use this quite nicely to slow down this particular attack. Because at this point, there's no banelings or anything along those lines. Here go the Marines. We are going to need to see a fungal, and the fungal is glorious. It deals a bit of damage. He's trying to get the Widow Mines to deal friendly fire too, using those almost stationary targets. In the meantime, there is a Zergling counterattack, but Clem manages to push that one back. I think we actually need to be retreating with those Marines, but he wants to get some creep tumors as well. Nice target firing right there by Clem. Getting a little bit more value just like that. 4th Command Center has already come up. We have a 2nd factory down at the front. We'll probably see barracks 6, 7, and 8 here in just a moment. Generally, we build all of them in one go. Building them one at a time is a little bit odd. Another fungal. That one doesn't hit too much. Clem really trying to put on the pressure, though, and make it difficult for the Zerg to really grab a foothold here. He got rid of the creep, obviously, and he wants to use that to his advantage right now. And since the Infestors are out of energy, the Queens obviously are not that big of a damage dealer. Life is viable here. More Infestors coming up. Serral just entirely skipping out on the Banelings here. Very strange unit composition. We're already up to 4 Infestors. I think he must have lost 1 or 2 as well. Another fungal here. What a weird comp here from Serral. Now with the new patch, Banelings are getting a 5 HP buff. It doesn't sound too significant, but it really would make it significantly better in these type of spots. Fungal over here would be lovely. He is targeting the hatchery, though. No queen energy available. There is, and the transfusion will save it. Serral, though, also in the meantime sending in a very large Zergling counterattack. 4th Command Center in the meantime has been set up. And thus far, this has been a very lovely back and forth. An odd unit composition here from Serral, but one that may very well work if he can get Ultralisks out. And at this point, there are no Ultras yet. He is getting the Cavern going, but it's still going to be a while. Now, this is a lovely grab, though, on that many Marines. Somehow, some way, Jimmy managed to survive that fight. Adrenal Glands is done for these Zerglings, so they will have about a 40% attack speed improvement. Another Liberator here, mostly just for zoning. A bunch of Widow Mines set up as well. Creep on the left side of the map is looking great. But across the board, Serral is not achieving too much on the other side of the map. And Clem keeps on carving little advantages for himself as he's moving forward. It is not cheap for this Terran player at all. But he does seem to be able to make a little bit of headway at a time. Now, this Zergling run-by, though, can change the tide of a battle very rapidly, just like that. Look at Serral individually target firing down a lot of stuff, and that is actually 19 SCVs going down. In the meantime, the push at the front is putting in quite a bit of work, too. 11 Queens, by the way, is weird. He's lost 6 of them. Normally, Queens are not used as a straight-up army unit. Usually, we see about 8, 7 or 8 in this particular matchup. Serral is making them as a core unit for his army. Now, I think soon, though, they will be forced to heal up a bunch of Ultralisks. chitinous plating, +3 melee, +3 armor. It's a very expensive set of upgrades. Finally, he does, Clem that is, manage to get the kill on that base. Zergling run by again. Widow Mines, though, have been set up nicely. 10 drones end up going down as well. Both players now at 69 workers. 5th command center, though, is already done, right? And the more command centers there are, the better this will be here for the Terran player. If he can, at the very least, add on some mules as well. So far, no orbital command yet. He needs to be careful, though. If he keeps on getting fungled like that, he will not be able to lift up his units. It's important to note that Microbial Shroud is not just a slow. It doesn't just deal a little bit of damage, but it also inhibits any sort of movement abilities. And popping your units inside of a medevac is considered to be a movement type of ability, and that one is not possible when your units are fungled. Chitinous plating, Ultralisk armor, now done. Queens trying to go in around the site. Liberators, of course, do a lot of damage. The Queens are not really that high of a DPS unit themselves, but ooh, in the meantime, a couple of Ultras over here are being caught. Fungal again on the ramp could be nice. Most Ultras, though, are extremely low in this section of the map, and that's another one going down. Clem could retarget, maybe get another one of those Infestors. Does not quite click fast enough. Ultras now do show up. Fungal Growth also does show up. Liberators are set a little bit too far forward. He does kill 10 drones in the meantime, too. Widow Mines, though, are being cleaned up, and that has been the backbone of Clem's attacks. As the Ultralisk numbers are growing, this is going to be trickier and trickier here for the Terran. But thus far, he has dealt a lot of damage here to the Zerg's economy. It's only a handful of drones at a time. But look at this, man. Look at these few Marines and Marauders. The Queen's body blocking, the Medevac's healing up. Sporecrawler not within range. That was like a handful of units getting so much value. Serral is actually walling them off right now. Burrowing the Sporecrawler. Apparently, there's just barely enough space for these Zerglings to squeeze through. But what an absolute mess. In the meantime, the Terran reinforcements have arrived, though, and you can see it reflected right now in the supply count. Clem is not really winning this with one big fight, but he may be able to achieve his goal of killing his opponent with 1,000 cuts. Now the Ultras, though, are here. And keep in mind, there are no Ghosts and not that many Liberators. Normally, Ghosts and Liberators are the main counter to these units. Marines and Marauders can sort of get the job done. This is, by the way, why I'm thinking Microbial Shroud would actually be, like in a game like this, Microbial Shroud would actually be the superior choice, I think, over Fungal Growth, which is a crazy statement to make, but these Marines and Marauders would barely deal any damage. If Serral could get a couple Infestors out and then Microbial Shroud maybe end Fungal Growth, I mean, obviously that is speculation for now. We'll have to see how the new patch works out. And again, this is played on the old patch, but it could be enough to change the tide of a battle like the one that we are seeing right now. Nice little Marine drops, though, all over the place. Serral really wants to get a moment to breathe. But for the time being, he hasn't really been able to, well, stop the opponent for longer than like 10 seconds. Clem just keeps on microing, he keeps on dropping. He did, by the way, go double planetary, which I find quite interesting. Normally, the 4th base is a planetary fortress, but the 5th, not necessarily so. Normally, after the 4th, you go into a lot of orbital commands. Maybe because of the Zergling run-bys that have been wreaking havoc. Ooh, Fungal coming in around the site, but nice pickup there by Clem, just barely in the nick of time. He now sees, he expected that this base was already taken, but he now sees that that is not the case. And this may very well change the way that he is viewing this match. Because he believed that the Zerg economy was bigger than it was. Maybe he can go for the killing blow. It's looking to me like he wants to send all of his units through the center here. Fungal Growth is decent. Most of the Infestors are out of energy. Fungal maybe coming in around the site. Not enough energy on that one, though. You need 75 energy for a Fungal. And so far, even though there's no Ghosts, I mean, they're added into the mix right now. The Marines and Marauders seem to be doing a pretty darn good job. Serral's economy is not atrocious, but at this point, Clem is getting about 1,200 resources more for every minute that goes by. Now, maybe this Ultra Zergling counterattack can actually nullify some of it. Obviously, these units deal a lot of damage. Zerglings in particular, by the way. Their DPS is not to be underestimated. 14 SCVs end up going down. Maybe the Marines and the Marauders, though, stimming in this direction, can cut off the retreat path. He could burrow some of them, I suppose, but it's very expensive. In the meantime, another massive Zergling counterattack. Sure, Clem may be able to get a bunch of those Ultras in the top right-hand corner of the map, but he may be losing all of his economy in exchange. This may have just been exactly what Sarah was looking for, because all of a sudden we are 47 SCVs down. There's no way, dude. Is Sarah doing this again? I feel like for the first, I don't know, 15 and 45 seconds, 15 minutes, 45 seconds of this game, Clem was leading. But now all of a sudden we find ourselves in a position where Sarah isn't comfortable. But he may have just managed to get the job done, although it's still going to be extremely close. Look, if Clem can get a EMP down with the ghosts onto the infestors, and if he can then also go ahead and maybe use, I don't know, a couple of snipes or just Marines and Marauders kiting backwards against the Ultras, this is still very doable for him. But we have seen time and time again that Serral only needs a little bit of space in order to pull plays like this off. Planetary Fortress did finish, but ooh, I wonder if he could have killed it. I think he could have, to be honest. Serral decided to pull out of that Planetary Fortress. He'll probably come back in a moment, though, to finish the job if Clem does not repair, and he does. Planetary over here on the right, at the very least, has been quite nice. Okay. Dude, what an amazing game number one. Seriously. We have an Infestor sharking around for a while, by the way. Serral has been setting them up. Yeah, there's a few of them all over the map. He's been setting them up in key positions. This is not the type of game where Clem has a dozen orbital commands. He does not have a Raven available or anything like that. What he can do, though, is EMP. Nice EMP right over there from Clem, who's still leading the supply count by a very hefty amount. But he just doesn't really have the army that can reliably fight on creep. Another fungal growth. Man, Serral is making these infestors look so freaking powerful. The pushes are starting to look a little bit desperate, though, here from Clem. Yes, he may have like a 40 supply advantage. Yes, his army is absolutely massive. But he is pushing as if he is the one on the ropes right now. And I'm not entirely sure if that's true. He's getting the Liberator ranged upgrade too, man. The fungals have just been lethal. Ay, ay, ay. Did Serral just reinvent Zerg versus Terran again? I feel like this is the type of style that is better on the new patch than it is on the old. But he's making it work on the old one. Ooh, dang. Jimmy did a little bit of a flyby over there. Okay. Zergling is burrowed right underneath here, so that command center will not be able to land. Most of the infestors, by the way, have been killed. Yeah, 17 queens, 10 infestors have died. Only 3 ghosts have gone down up until this point. Spore crawlers are set up in key locations to prevent the Liberators from dealing critical amounts of damage. This little position over here, though, is good for the Terran. Yeah, absolutely massacring the Zergling group. What about the push over here at the front, though? Because Serral may very well be smelling blood in the water. He's going in for a massive attack. It's just Zerglings and Ultras, though. At some point, the Marines, Marauders, and Ghosts can't really keep a running. Fungal growth or not. Yeah, that was just a final play here for Serral. Man, Clem gets the win in game number 1, but he had to really fight for it. And just like that, we find ourselves on the map Persephone. These two are incredibly evenly matched. I really like, though, that Serral decided to go with a bit of an experimental playstyle there in the first game of the series. Skipping Banelings altogether is quite an odd choice. Not usually the one that we see. Now, I do find it kind of funny, right? With the new patch going live last week, it's the first StarCraft 2 balance patch this year. So in like 10 months or so, we haven't really seen any balance adjustments. And it was also, coincidentally, the first time I took a week off in 2025. I have been making videos pretty much every single day. I've been trying my best to produce the very best content that I can. I prepare a bunch of videos in advance because me and Laurent decided to take a vacation. And of course, right in that 1 week is when Blizzard decides to publish the new patch. And yeah, I miss what is apparently one of the very best finals. I mean, luckily we have the replay, so we can go back. But it is kind of ironic that just when I decide to leave, that is exactly when Blizzard decides to publish it all. Now, of course, I will be casting many games from the new patch as well. It's going to be an absolute blast. I've been hearing a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of drama, in particular with the new Microbial Shroud, but then also, of course, with the new Psionic Storm. They've made quite a few changes to it. I will highlight all of it when, of course, we do get to some of those new games. I will go over all of the changes during the cast then, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, so you get notified as soon as those videos do go live. For now, though, right here on Persephone in game number 2, we have a very normal start here. Clem again going for the low ground wall off. Factory on the back of this. I wonder how much being like the hometown hero really affects Clem in this particular series. Right, so like I said, this is a tournament played in Paris. Ooh, nice snipe over here. He gets a drone again, just like the previous game. The series is played in Paris, and obviously Clem is French. Now, I have traveled many places to go to StarCraft 2 tournaments, and Serral is always a fan favorite. But I think playing against Clem in Paris may be one of the very few locations where Serral was not necessarily the player that everybody is cheering for. I mean, StarCraft fans in general are very polite, right? It's not generally like some of the, I don't know, some of the regular sports out there where people are... I've noticed, at least over the years, a lot of StarCraft fans just are fans of high-level gameplay. But of course, there will be some people that will be following one player in particular and watch every single one of their games. But usually, Serral is the man that everybody wants to see. But I wouldn't be surprised if in this particular matchup, it was Clem who was getting the majority of the cheers. The Eiffel Tower buff is what we call this, I believe. I think that's right. Triple Command Center opener. Barracks, Factory Starport. Second gas coming up right now. Hellions will be driving around again, so very similar start to what we saw in the previous game. Now, I am very interested to see whether or not Serral is going to go for the same build again. Right? So it's a new build order, or at the very least a more refined version of it, but there is a very real chance that he hasn't had as much practice with that strat, and that maybe something just went slightly wrong. You need to make sure that you obviously play a very clean early game. And it kind of felt to me like Serral never really got up to the worker count that he intended. I think that's a style you probably want to be playing off of about 80 to 85 drones or so, and Serral never really went over like 75. So maybe I'm mistaken. Zergling Scout over here at the front. There's a very real chance that Serral never really got the ball rolling in the way that he wanted to. Evo chamber first, okay. 4 minutes and 30 seconds, a 1 Evo chamber in the middle of the wall off. It's not even in, right over here would be the middle. Kind of a weird spot. I'm guessing it's going to be armor first, but apparently Serral is making all of the changes now. A lair does start up as well at 450. This has to be +1 carapace. It's really the only thing that makes sense in my mind, but maybe he's got something fishy happening here too. Hellions, though, have driven by the Overlord, and Serral sees it and uses this as an opportunity now to snipe a bunch of the SCVs and also bring back some of those units that were on his side of the map. The best defense, of course, is the offense. It is indeed, by the way, carapace. Clem opting to go for a Liberator in game number 1, decides to go for a Banshee this time around. The Liberator in game number 1 really didn't do that much. The first one, that is. The ones that came on the back of it were pretty good. We have 3 additional barracks right now added into the mix. Double engineering bay as well in the back of the natural expansion. And so are those Zerglings again. What about these Hellions, though? Obviously, the Zerglings are on the other side of the map. Clem doesn't want to risk it. He sees a couple of Lings over here. I think he could have jumped in. Always a difficult call to make, right? I think he could have jumped in and maybe did some damage, but he doesn't know how many Zerglings are hiding in that natural. Banshees are dealing a bit of damage already, though. We have that lair done, and therefore a Overseer can be morphed in. It's going to provide Serral the detection he needs, and he loses one of the queens in the process, but I think he prefers losing a queen here over a bunch of drones. Quick Infestation Pit again. Are we gonna fire up Triple Infestor again immediately? Maybe Serral's already practicing for the new patch. Who knows? This is looking remarkably similar, though, because I don't see a Baneling Nest anywhere, and this will probably be a quick Hive again. I think one thing, actually, if I have to be critical of Serral's previous game, his Hive felt reasonably late. Obviously, when I say late, like, this is now at, like, 650. I think in the previous game, I didn't really pay attention to the clock, but it felt like his upgrades at the Hive kicked in a little bit later than we would have normally expected them to, so maybe something went slightly off there. Maybe those Ultras were supposed to be out, like, say, a half minute sooner or so, and this could be huge! Oh! Okay, Clem sleeping on the job. With a meager 446 actions per minute. That is only like 10 buttons. Okay, maybe like 8 buttons a second. My God, Clem. Get a grip. Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. It happens. Pro gamers are human too, but that is painful. If anything, you could park the Hellions in the mineral line and use them for some Zergling run-by defense, because now all of a sudden, momentum does slip in favor here of Serral. Queens going in around the side here, again used for zoning. We have 9 queens this time. No additional queens on the production tab, unlike the 20 or so that he ended up going for in the previous game. But again, he is skipping out Banelings. Fungal. Very interesting to see, right? Why would Clem not be facing off against Banelings in a series like this? Zergling run by again. Obviously, it allows a very quick Hive. Another Fungal over here too. And obviously, he's spending his gas here on Infestors instead. Maybe Serral has determined that, like, Clem's micro is too good, and therefore, I mean, maybe it just doesn't make sense to go for Banelings anymore. Now that they have, in the new patch, plus 5 HP again, though, maybe they will suddenly be worthwhile once again. Huh. Did that wait, hold up. Did that Medivac just get a couple of heals off? This is supposed to be... Maybe it was a heal on the Marines instead. This is supposed to be a line of sight blocker. Or not a line of sight, sorry, a path blocker over here for the Medivac. Let me see. Sorry. This is just for my own little... 58 HP right now. Something got a heal. No, it must have been a Zerglings. Okay. 58 HP right there on the Medivac. So this giant circle over here is supposed to block flying units from being able to enter the Xel'Naga Healing Shrine. I thought it was some sort of bug. Not the case, though. The animation is difficult to spot. There's the Ultra Cavern, though, already coming. Drilling Claws finishing up in the meantime on the other side of the map. Zergling is burrowed in the wrong spot. Oh, it's not? Oh, it looked like it was in the wrong... What? Really? Okay. It looked like it was burrowed in the wrong spot, but Serral evidently knowing this game very well. Spire coming up as well. Now the Baneling Nest gets added. What a curious build order here from Serral. Not just in this game, but also in the previous one especially. What a... I'm guessing he wants to build up a bunch of Corruptors just to be able to deal with the Medivacs a little bit better. We have 5 Dropper Lords added into the mix. Ghost Academy already coming up here for Clem, though. He was kind of caught off guard against those Ultras in the previous game, despite the fact that they felt quite late. He didn't really have a reliable answer. In this game, he's going to be able to get those Ghosts going a little bit quicker. Marines chasing down the Zerglings wherever they can. Zerglings, though, have been running around the map every which way. Should we do a little bit of first-person view? This is Clem's point of view whilst playing the match. You can see his selections in the bottom right-hand corner. That is where that 480 average actions per minute is kicking in. What always impresses me the most when we look at first-person pro gaming is how little scrolling there is actually going on. So obviously they are doing the edge-to-edge scrolling or the middle mouse button scrolling, but most of this is camera location hotkeys. Notice how the screen isn't really... That was a drag scroll right over there. But notice how the screen isn't really being panned around that much. Like, he's using control groups a lot to be able to move around the camera. But it's actually relatively calm despite having like near, you know, like 9 buttons a second, which is nuts. Switching over to some Serral first-person view. Serral doing a lot more drag scrolling, comparatively. See how he keeps on moving it around. Serral actually switched over to middle mouse scrolling some years ago, rather than panning the edge of the screen, which I found quite interesting. Here we go, though. Overlord drop inside of the main base. And this is quite painful. If anything, it is really drawing Clem's units all the way back into the main. Now, what Serral really gets out of this is time. So he's got 92 drones this time around. He's got the upgrades ticking along as well. Ultras are available right now, though, but of course the ghosts are already here. The Widow Mines are creating a literal minefield. 10 SCVs is nothing really you have to be worried about here as Clem. 3 o'clock base, though, is going to be available here in just a moment. No creep moving from the bottom right north. So it's going to be difficult to really secure that base and reliably mine it. Clem should be able to snipe it without too much hassle. Clem, of course, also getting his own command center upgrades going, or all of his bio upgrades here. He's getting the range research for the Liberators. Apparently there was a Zergling that killed the... Oh, it's a fake Overlord drop. Ah, yeah. Bunch of Marines and Marauders run back in, but it's actually not really that much. Banelings now all of a sudden show up, though. It's the first time that Clem, I think, sees them. He does keep the command center alive. Zerglings, Ultras, and Banelings moving into the 4th base here, too. Clem has sealed off pretty much all of his expansions very nicely. But you know what? I thought this base was going to be hard to mine. If Clem decides to play it this passively, those golden minerals are going to be extremely nice. Hydralisk Den. Also added into the mix. So, what was the Spire for? Another change in the new patch. Spires are going to be cheaper and they produce faster. We do have the Zerglings and the Banelings moving in again. Infestors are full of energy, though, and they do decide to land some decent fungals. Serral's kill, though, his goal was to get that planetary fortress. And upon achieving it, he decides to back off. Caduceus reactor coming up here for Clem. That is the Medevac regen improvement. Really does make life a lot better. And he's now also done with his own +3/+3 infantry attacks. Fungal growths are going to finish off those Banshees. 3 o'clock base is going to get sniped as the Banshee distraction was successful. Again, though, Serral is pushing forward. And you can feel that in this game compared to the previous one, right? Momentum is just way better for the Zerg player. Clem not really able to get his feet under him as nicely. In the previous game, he was the one that was constantly aggressive, and now it's Serral who has managed to get that goal. Managed to achieve exactly what he set out to. And while it's expensive for the Zerg, he's got a very healthy economy to constantly replace all of those losses. Still, though, Clem's economy here is significant. Clem has now decided to go for the good old strategy that Terran players are very fond of. At some point, after too many losses, do not bother to replace the lost workers. Just go for the biggest army you can muster. So, Clem not really reproducing any workers here. Maybe he'll make some in a moment, but for now he really is just focusing on army production. And it means that his army size is gonna go through the roof. Because Serral has 85 workers dedicated to his mining, and obviously he's capped at 200, he just simply can't have nearly as much dedicated supply available for his army. So Clem's economy is still decent. He's starting to replace most of his mining as well with mules. You cannot count the man out. A few Corruptors, by the way. Also really nice to have. The Zergling drop this time around is real. For some reason, the Siege Tank decided to shoot at the Tech Lab. Maybe just seeing if he had the amount of range that he needed. The Zergling run-bys, though, left, right, and center. What about the counter-attack right over here? No Infestors available in this section of the map. Not enough Corruptors either. Zerglings, though, in the main base, are destroying a bunch of stuff, but not too crazy. Fungal over here, though. Hatchery does fall. Okay. Clem gets some damage done, but he needs to be careful. Ooh, he flies into a bunch of the Spore Crawlers. Corruptors are showing up as well. Hatchery gets cancelled again, but I'm not sure if these Marines and Marauders are going to be able to go home. It's just a few Corruptors. But the Corruptors are chipping away. They do have the +1 attack. Yeah, and this is painful here for Clem. Losing a significant amount of his supply in units that normally can just fly back home. 3 o'clock base once more available again. No drones transferred on over to it just yet, though. Clem has decided to take the base over here in the top right once again, too. Getting a planetary fortress in that spot. Command centers are now finished here, too. So if he can add on a bunch more orbital commands, I mean, yeah, once you get up to like 6, 7, 8, your Terran economy does get really good. He's already got 4 orbitals. This one is going to turn into a planetary. I think he'll probably get these into orbital commands as well. That'll make the total very, very healthy. And he's going to be okay with just 52 SCVs worth of mining. As a matter of fact, he could lose some more. The creep spread, though, is allowing Serral to just jump so rapidly across the map. Again, the Zerg units show up in the top right-hand corner, mostly unscouted. The DPS is through the roof at this point, and while every single time he does lose a bunch of units, and while it's rarely cost-effective, he's got so much mining here. Yeah, this is really telling us most of the story of the game. Serral is just getting a healthy chunk of income more. And while the Terran's army is better in a straight-up fight, it's difficult to really get all of those units together in one big ball, because anytime he pushes, there's a Zergling run-by again on the other side of the map. He needs to leave units behind. Now, this push over here, though, is not bad. Losing the Ghost would be painful. He does lose a few of them, maybe all of them. Still a few running away through that speed-up circle. Only some Corruptors available, slowly chipping away at the Medivacs, slowly chipping away at the Liberators, too. Okay. Clem sends in a counterattack here, but it's starting to feel a little bit desperate. Both players have now fully depleted their banks. And while I think it was okay for Clem to sit at 50 workers for a while, we're kind of getting to the point. Ooh, Fungal Growth over here, Ultras and Zerglings, another Infestor coming in from the left. Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's starting to fizzle out. I think Serral is reading this game brilliantly. Now, Banelings blowing themselves up inside of a healing circle is a little odd. Corruptors swoop in, though, and we'll be able to get rid of some of those Medivacs. More and more SCVs are dying. Yeah, I think for a strategy like this, for the Terran to work out, you need to just get more damage done sooner. Obviously, it's not for a lack of trying, but I agree here with Clem. You can't really fight Serral with this much economy compared to yours. The score is all tied up, and we have made our way to the map Pylon. Now, this is actually my first StarCraft 2 series that I'm casting again after 2 weeks. I know. I honestly missed it. I know that sounds kind of cringe, but I really enjoy what I do, okay? I haven't really watched a lot of StarCraft either because, well, oftentimes when there's tournaments going on, I know that I can, most of the time, if I, ask the tournament organizers, or I also support a lot of tournaments out there financially, I can usually get the replays, and because of it, I haven't really been casting and looking at a whole lot of... And it's nice to get back. It's nice to get back. So right before I took a week off to go on vacation, so we decided to go and take a week off. We had already planned that in advance. We booked a holiday and everything. The week before that, I managed to get sick. Now, I normally rarely get sick. I lost my voice and everything too, man. It was not good. But luckily, we're all back now. Little Zergling run by right over here. Marines trying their very best. SCVs will have to take up their own weapons as well. Hatchery over here has been blocked a bunch of times, but this has been a fake out from Serral for a while. I think he's going to let it finish. Yeah. Oh, ooh, really? Good body block. Yeah. I mean, I think he should have let it finish. Good body block right there by the Reaper, preventing the gas from being built. Serral already built the hatchery, of course, on the other side. I think at this point, Clem just assumes it's there, even though he hasn't technically seen it. Just by looking at all of the timings, he will have expected it. Okay. A few SCVs end up going down, and this is painful. Liberator, Hellion here, also falls. 3 SCVs is honestly significant for a Terran at this point. I know it doesn't sound like it's that much, but it's like 10% of his total economy at this point in time, and it adds up very rapidly. Now all of a sudden everything feels slightly more expensive. Additional Hellion production may be slowed down. Look, he can't really produce that secondary Hellion right now. There's a small delay. Ooh! Zerglings and drones decide to take their weapons to the Hellions themselves. And so far the workers in this particular game have been feisty. Little Zergling run by again on the other side of the map too. 7 workers for 4 Hellions in total. I don't hate it, but I'm also not a huge fan. All things considered though, as the dust is settling right now, I'm liking this position better for Serral. So when both players sort of lose their pressure out onto the map, and I believe there is still a Banshee, so at the very least Clem is not going to be without any sort of pressure, but obviously the larva mechanic here is incredibly powerful. While Clement does have 3 command centers, and he can obviously build 3 of those SCVs at a time, Serral has a whole lot of larva to pretty much immediately saturate the bases with. So as Clem is just now securing a 3rd, Serral is already fully saturating his. This Banshee has its work cut out for her, but I don't think she's going to be able to achieve too much. Personal cloaking for the Banshee is going to finish up as well in just a moment. Another group of Hellions. Now this is kind of odd here from Clem. You wouldn't really expect it as a Zerg, after the first batch of Hellions to go down, that a secondary batch would come up. And these also, don't achieve too much. Now all of a sudden we do go Banelings. I feel like if you want to rush up Ultras, this is the perfect game to do so. Because there is pretty much no pressure on the horizon here from Clem. So Serral throwing down the Baneling Nest makes me wonder if maybe he wants to go for something a little bit more aggressive himself. Or maybe he really just wants to be super safe. But if there ever was a game to skip out on the Banelings, I feel like this would be the one. Obviously, though, we have perfect information right on the game. And not quite as simple here for Serral. But I also don't think this is the most complex game for him ever to read. So we'll have to see what he does with the Baneling Nest. Lair is already here. No Infestation Pit. +1 melee. Baneling speed does begin. +2 armor as well. So economically, Serral is slightly ahead. Upgrades-wise, he's got a full armor upgrade, which just makes all of those early game exchanges a little bit better for him. That low HP Banshee from earlier has found a friend. No Overseer here yet. There is one available. Oh, there it comes. Banshees, though, taking a long way all the way around the site, trying to make sure that they are not spotted by that Overseer. Factory at the front as well, over at the 3rd. Secondary factory, of course, that is. And yep, we've got barracks 3, 4, and 5 finishing up. Okay. A slow Overlord drop has arrived in the main base. Banshee's still going to town. But it really feels like the players are just trying to throw stuff at each other. Whatever they can get their hands on. Slow Overlords, 2 Banshees, 2 Medivacs and a few units, a kitchen sink. Anything that's even remotely throwable. Ultimately, though, it's both players building up their economies. They're testing the waters, trying their very best to just deal as much damage as they can with what little they do have, but ultimately, it is a reasonably passive follow-up here from the both of them. Yeah, so Serral did get the Baneling speed going, but he's not really using it for anything. I thought maybe he wanted to go for like a roll by as soon as Baneling speed finished up. But nope, he just got Baneling speed. Still went for an Infestation Pit, still went into a Hive. Still is building up a few of those Infestors too right now. All of it is a little bit slower though. Nice micro here by Clem. Paying attention to everything. Ooh, gets an Infestor for his troubles too. Queens accidentally kill one of their own creep tumors. A misclick right there from Serral. What about that roll by? I expected this push a little bit earlier. Yeah, nothing too much though. Only 6 SCVs have gone down in total so far in this game. And Clem suddenly has picked up the pace a little bit. Those Banelings now, right? With plus 5 additional HP on the new patch. That is mostly done, I believe, for the Zerg versus Protoss matchup. Because against Protoss, with Psystorm, we used to not really see a lot of Baneling play anymore. And plus 5 HP is what they used to have once upon a time. They removed it. Didn't really compensate much. But it's of course one of those changes that is also going to drastically... Ooh, Fungal. It is also certainly going to affect this matchup. Ooh, so much friendly fire done as well though there by Clem. Widow Mines are a double-edged sword. Sometimes they deal damage to your units more so than the units you wanted them to kill. They are technically microable, but most of the time you just sort of let them do their own thing. APM limitation. There's always more to manage in this game, right? And that's what makes StarCraft 2 so good. Ultimately, this is a game of priorities where you have to decide what do you want to do right now. And you have to decide that literally the entire game long. But getting the prioritization right is so incredibly difficult. Individual Widowmine micro, not really top of the line priority right now. Zergling run by again, but there are a bunch of units ready for defense as well. Reinforcements coming up from both sides. Good defense here by Clem. And look at the supply count now all of a sudden, right? Clem is going into a 5th command center. And even though the game has been feeling pretty smooth for Serral at the first, I want to say like the first 6 or 7 minutes or so, slowly but surely, Clem is starting to chip away at those Zerg units. And he gets so much value with that phenomenal micro of his that now he's got a very legitimate amount of supply and an advantage. And yeah, he's smelling blood in the water right now. A good old 3-base 8-Rex would have been phenomenal here. Clem not really a big fan of that style, even though most Terran players love it. A couple of the Hydralists are joining in as well. Usually that's a sign that he wants to go into Lurkers. No Lurker Den anywhere though. And at this point, Serral is having a tough time just staying alive. Medivacs are swooping away again, but already there's a new attack imminent towards that top left-hand corner. Serral is having a difficult time even taking a 5th. Even though Clem has got the same amount of bases here and then a couple of additional command centers on top of it too. Clem has got the better army. He doesn't quite have the better upgrades, but his economy more than makes up for it. And soon everybody will be at 3-3 anyways. It is something that Clem will need to start up. Okay, he needs to be careful. He's throwing away a lot of expensive units here. Another starport added into the mix. Another command center added as well. Pylon can become quite a cramped map. Difficult to expand on. There's a lot of choke points, for example, where we have seen massive problems for Terran players over the last few months, where in the late game they just can't really maneuver around very much. Now, we are a long ways off from a proper late game like that, but it may very well be what is in the back of Serral's mind right now. Try to drag this game out as much as he can. Hydraling Bane and Fester. Ooh, big fungal over here. He doesn't have a whole lot of energy anymore, but as long as there's no ghosts out, and they're coming right now, but as long as there's no ghosts available yet, those infestors can do whatever they like. Hydras actually are not to be underestimated. Nicely done. Now, I don't think Cero has seen any ghost yet. No, the first ones are just about to pop out of the barracks. EMP can change the tide of a game like this very quickly. We have the Hydralisk lunge ability as well. The nanomuscular swell. That's what the research is called. I know, it's disgusting. Although over here, apparently, in this overlay, they only call it lunge. That's the name of the ability, not the ability to research. Anyway. What do you think is the grossest upgrade thing in StarCraft 2? Like, the dirtiest name? I think nanomuscular swell is up there. So again, that's the Hydralisk lunge ability. Circling run by in the meantime on the other side of the map, joining in with a bunch of Hydralisks. Counterattack here as well from the Terran player. Ooh, huge SCV losses right now, though. And Clem needs to be careful, man. Sometimes I feel like he gets a little bit too comfortable. Cero is somebody who will never go down without a fight, and we may be just witnessing that again. Clem was looking so good up until about a minute ago, and while he's dealing some damage, he's taking so much damage at home. Now all of a sudden, Cero is knocking at the front door. Orbital Command in a natural goes down. This is kind of a crazy attack here from the Zerg player, if I'm being honest, but reinforcing Zerg units, I think, should be able to deal with the units that are available right now on the side of the Zerg. So I think he's going to be able to get rid of those Marines and the Marauders. And suddenly, knock, knock, who's there? It's the entirety of the Zerg swarm. He may have cornered himself a little bit, though. I think it's fine. Yeah, I think Cero has the numbers. Oh, okay, sure. That's how we can use the lunge ability. Clem trying desperately to hold on to his main base. If Cero can stay here, though, and comfortably stabilize in this spot, he can snipe all of the units as soon as they pop out of the production structures. And that obviously is a massive problem. Reinforcing Zerg can show up as well. I think Cero may have just pulled a rabbit out of a hat. That's crazy. Yeah, at this point, there's no pressure anymore either. There's a bunch of Widow Mines, but that's about it. Natural expansion is gone, so that means that the main base is wide open. And I think Clem, yeah, he's processing the loss right now. I think Clem is actually screwed. GG. Wow. And just like that, we find ourselves on Golden Wall. Now, I'm always a little bit biased. I think this is my favorite map that we've had in StarCraft 2 over like the last... how long has it been? 5, 6, 7... Normally, whenever I'm thinking about a time period, I need to like double it. So maybe the last 10 years. StarCraft 2 time is a beautiful thing. Sometimes I think to myself, oh yeah, how long has it been since Björn was the world champion of StarCraft? Maybe like 4 or 5... 2016. Which, believe it or not, was not 4 years ago. I know. Sounds like a glitch in the Matrix. Anyway, triple command center opener right here for Clem. Cero going for the forward expansion first, and then the backwards expansion. It's one of my favorite parts about this particular map. The way in which you expand dictates the pacing of the match, and you can go for a lot of aggressive builds as well because of it. Now, Cero hasn't really gone for any aggressive builds. I mean, obviously that previous game ended with a lot of aggression, but no early game pressure. 3 minutes and 15-ish seconds in, though, he started up a Roach Warren just now. Okay. Now, it's an easy scout for Clem, but he has not gone up to the high ground here to check. And this doesn't have to indicate aggression, but Cero did skip out on the Zergling speed as well as any other gas expenditure. He doesn't have that much gas as it is anyways, but he could certainly rush out like 5 roaches or so and deal some damage. Clem opting to go for a much quicker second barracks this time around, so delaying the starport in favor of a second barracks. Both players switching up their strategies just a bit. Usually roaches are very much so a stepping stone, but okay. Cero walling himself in fully in the natural expansion. It's a little curious. We don't normally see it this way. Okay.
Hi, done. Thanks for watching. If someone is actually watching. You gotta do some programming now. Take a bath. Do whatever. Hope you guys stay consistent.